and figure it out more than he has so far this year, because we saw it last year. I'm willing to think that Colt Keith can figure things out, because in that game on Friday, it was 4 of 5, or was it Saturday? I can't remember which game it was, but he was on fire. And again, I don't expect that to continue, but maybe the light switch is going on, and he's going to be as a rookie, 250, 270. It's going to be a lot better than he has been. And yeah, if that happens with Spencer Torkelson, with Colt Keith, and Riley Green gets back to where he was a couple of weeks ago, now all of a sudden you can put together a lineup that could score some runs.
Well, the idea, will Colt Keith hit 190 for the season? No, I don't think so. But these games count. And when you don't win these games, you kind of...
Yeah.
You end up stuck, which is where they feel right now, just as a 500 baseball team. It was 4 of 5 for Colt Keith on Friday night, the night where they scored with 13 runs, and Baez had the 5 RBI. And they didn't waste a good pitcher. Skubal on the hill, and then Flaherty the next day. Imagine that. You hit a little bit. We're not talking about wasting what Skubal and Flaherty have done this season, or Mize, or
but you add tonight to what you're seeing from Perez, Ibanez when he's in there, Urshela, Kerry Carpenter. Like, you starting to look at a lineup that could be enough with the pitching.
248-539-9797. You want to jump in on the phones or the ticket text. 8:35, Game 7, FOMO. It's everywhere you look. Game 7. What about us? I've got some stats on that. 8:50, we talk Lions. Can we get everybody on the same page? Can we make a pact as a show, as a fan base, and a station? Let's get to Heather with the news.
You guys, Taylor Swift fans are convinced that Travis Kelce gave her a hickey. Yes. After she was spotted with a noticeable red mark on her neck during her Eras Tour stop in Sweden. So fans spotted this alleged hickey when she pulled her hair to one side while she was performing Champagne Problems on Saturday night. And of course, to make it more believable that this could be a hickey, it came days after they had a very romantic getaway in Italy. So they were spotted last week. They stayed at a really ritzy villa in Lake Como, Italy. So perhaps it was a hickey. Perhaps she burnt herself with a curling iron. Who knows? But fans, at least one fan anyway, online called it so high school.
Wait till you find out they probably had sex, too.
Oh, no! Say it ain't so.
Premarital on top of that?
How dare they? Well, in not so light news, a video after this was released showing Sean Diddy Combs beating his ex-girlfriend, Cassie. I didn't even want to watch the video.
It was
I read
horrific.
what took place in it, and I said, you know what? That's all I need to hear. The written words are more than enough for me. But after this video was released, it happened at a hotel back in 2016. He is now speaking up, and he says that he takes full responsibility for his actions. And he released this video apology. He said that he was truly sorry. He called his actions inexcusable, and he also admitted that he sought professional help after that incident. Not to her. I mean, he never once said he was sorry to her. And only is he apologizing after this video came forward, because she did sue him. That was settled very quickly.
It was within 24 hours.
Yes, it was. And now he is facing several lawsuits from other women, and he's under this federal criminal sex trafficking investigation as well.
I wonder how that therapy's going.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. A drunk driver.
Find a different outlet. Well, I'll just traffic them instead of...
God, it's disgusting. A drunk driver plowed into a large group of pedestrians in mid-Michigan over the weekend. killing 2 people and injuring dozens of others. It happened Saturday evening. Police say a 35-year-old woman struck this group of people who were walking on the shoulder of the road. I also read that they were crossing at a crosswalk at the time. This was in Clinton County, which is about 40 miles north of Lansing. 2 pedestrians were killed there at the scene. 2 men, a 30-year-old from Grand Haven and a 42-year-old from Grand Ledge. 14 other people were injured, ranging from toddler, from a 2-year-old to over 60-year-old. They were all taken to the hospital. Their injuries ranged from minor to life-threatening. Very sad. Like I said, it is believed that alcohol was involved. Detroit City FC is building a new home. This is exciting. The club announced last week that they're going to build this new stadium. It's going to be in Detroit's Corktown neighborhood, and it's at the site of this long abandoned. It's been abandoned for 18 years, the Southwest Detroit Hospital. They're going to tear that down. And they say the hope is to be completed so that they can play there for the 2027 season. So it's going to happen pretty quickly. Not a lot of details yet about the ins and outs of what's going to come with the stadium. It sounds like it's going to hold about 14,000 people, which is double what they currently have at their Keyworth Stadium in Hamtramck.
That's cool.
Have you guys been?
No.
I want to. I think that's going to be something I try to get done this summer. Let's go out and check it out. My wife played college soccer. I'm not a big soccer person, but the environment there is supposed to be pretty raucous, pretty good.
Do you have any special moments you could celebrate coming up?
Oh, yeah, maybe like the time, like
first haircut, maybe first haircut
something
together.
related to soccer, like her first goal.
She played goalkeeper, so.
Oh, okay, well, fine. I didn't know what position she played. I didn't know. Her first save.
Goal she gave up.
Her first save, her first win.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Anything to celebrate, John. You know me. That's Heather with the news.
More and more every day.
Coming up next. Game 7's everywhere you look. We'll get to that. You need to hear this exchange in the post game. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they won. Big upset, come from behind Game 7. You need to hear this clip, and then we'll talk about how it relates to Detroit. It's 97.1.
Hey, looking for ways to level up your fitness? Well, you can join the YMCA with no contract and no joiner fees, and for just $3 a day. I'm loving all the YMCA has to offer, including access to indoor pools, Les Mills group fitness, hundreds of machines, discounts on personal training, which I'm taking full advantage of right now, all with free child watch while you work out. And now you can try the Y for free. Visit any of the 7 Metro Detroit locations and get a free guest pass. Learn more at ymcadetroit.org and find your Y today.
All right, at 8:50, we're going to get into the Lions. See if we can get everybody on the same page. I think it'll be pretty easy. See if we can make this pack together as a show, as a city, a fan base, and a station 15 minutes from now. Quick note. Game 7's everywhere you look, John.
Oh, there's one tonight in hockey. Yesterday there was 2 of them in the NBA, and they were epic. Denver was up 20 points at one point in the second half. The Ant-Man took over and dethroned the defending world champs.
Come back, and he's waving bye-bye to the fans. You have to love Anthony Edwards and the personality that he brings and the breakthrough that has been this year for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Denver loses game 1 at home, game 2 at home, but it's all right, right? Heart of a champion rally, get game 7 at their place, and they blow it. So it's a breakthrough for the Timberwolves and an epic do-or-die game 7. The Pacers at Madison Square Garden, these Knicks fans are revitalized, rejuvenated, and it doesn't matter. They're all banged up, and Halliburton and company shot the lights out. The Pacers break through, go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Tonight in hockey, Edmonton and Vancouver. Connor McDavid, it's now or never. Vancouver's never won a Stanley Cup. The emotions. Game 7's great. It's why they say they're the best 2 words in all of sports. Game 7. And so much so that even if your team's not playing, you find yourself kind of scooting up near the edge of your seat because it's Game 7. Best 2 words are Game 7. The worst 2 words, though, are left out. And that's where we've been as Detroit fans.
Yes.
And I went back and looked it up, John. Detroit's last Game 7, 9 years ago. 2015, the Wings were shut out in Tampa. Lost 2-0. They blew a 3-2 series lead. That was the end of the road, end of the playoff streak, a passing of the torch. Tampa would go on to be perennial Stanley Cup contenders and win a couple cups. The last Game 7 win for a Detroit sports team is further back. You have to go to 2013. They beat the Anaheim Ducks. And then they lost in 7 games to the Chicago Blackhawks and blew a 3-1 series lead. That was back when the Wings were in the Western. Think about that. The last time a Detroit team won a Game 7, the Red Wings were in the Western Conference. The last time the Pistons played in and also won a Game 7 was 2006. This was still the heart of the going-to-work Pistons.
And they were also in the Western Conference.
What do you mean?
Just a joke.
Oh, okay.
The Pistons were in the Western Conference, like the Wings.
Yeah, they were in the spot against the Cavs, and they beat the Cavs in the second round of the playoffs. They lost to Shaq and Wade in the Eastern Conference Finals the very next series. But you got to go back to this is pre-LeBron. He had never left for Miami, not 1, not 2, not 3. He had never even played in an NBA championship yet. That would come a full year later.
Yeah.
The torch had not even been passed. And then if you go back for the Tigers, the last time they played in a Game 7 wasn't during the Verlander years, 06 to 2015, 16, not with all those deep postseason runs, World Series appearances. No, the last time the Detroit Tigers played in a Game 7, they won it. Good news. 1968.
Oh.
Do you miss Game 7s, John? Like, I mean, on one level, like you get to approach them differently as a casual neutral fan. It doesn't burn the same way. Like, it could be your stomach's in knots watching your team in a Game 7, but I miss that. It's been too long.
Well, you miss it because, first of all, you miss the seat at the table. Right now, I'm not even sure we're at the kids' table with the Pistons, but if you can get to the kids' table, then hopefully you get a chance to sit at the adult table and be in the playoffs, and then to get, maybe you win a series, you get into the second round, and you get to a Game 7, but here's part of what you're missing out on as well, is the excitement of some of the, not just the moments of getting to a Game 7 and the roller coaster that you have. Maybe you're up 3-2, and then all of a sudden the team ties it up, and now you got to go to a Game 7, or
on the road,
you're down 2-3, and you got to win 2 in a row
backed
to win
against the wall.
But you're missing out on the excitement of all these great players. Like, we don't have that individual, especially on the Pistons. And I know everybody's going to say, well, wait, what about Cade Cunningham? Well, let me give you this. In the 4 remaining teams, Boston, Jason Tatum, 26 years old. Right? He's the oldest star on the 4 remaining teams. Then you have Luka Doncic, who's only 25. You have Tyrese Halliburton, who's only 24. And then you've got Anthony Edwards, the star of yesterday of the NBA. He's only 22.
Same age as Cade, by the way. Not to.
Well, but that's the thing is, we talk about those that are 25 and under at some point during every major season, whether it's in football. We've talked about it with Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson. In basketball, every once in a while we talk about it, but you've got Cade Cunningham. What type of star is he? Even if you're in that situation, is he the guy that's going to generate that excitement? And in hockey, okay, maybe Lucas Raymond, he had some big goals. And the Tigers, Riley Green. But it's really hard to come by those young, exciting stars. And you don't even have a chance to see what they could do in that situation because you have no opportunity to be there.
Would have loved to see Lucas Raymond, who was so clutch at the end of the year, get a crack at it in the playoffs. Yeah. I don't think they beat the Rangers. Do they win a game at home? Do they give him a chance in a big moment? Does Mo Sider have a moment? It's the coming-of-age story, but you have to have those moments in the playoffs.
Right.
And ideally in pivotal Game 6s and, Game 7s where it's all on the line. Anthony Edwards, by the way, love the personality. There's a clip from the post-game press conference last night. It's him and Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is going to do most of the talking in this, but this is so funny. This is the clip. How much more we got to lose before we're allowed to win?
Yeah.
I love the kind of joy that they're bringing to the table here where they're like, no, man. Like, we're here. We've done our time. We're ready to win now.
It's the youthful exuberance. Yep. It's that excitement that I'm talking about. And when was the last time we heard that from LeBron? He's won world championships, but when was the last time we heard that level of excitement? And I don't know if you heard the interview or the post game. I think it was after Game 6. Luka Doncic. They had the interview, and this was going viral. Somebody was excited. It just wasn't in the same room as Luka Doncic, but he heard what was going on in a neighboring room, and the press conference stopped. Like to be able to have moments at a press conference, good, bad, indifferent. Like you just want to have a seat at the table. We got no seat at the table. We do for the Lions, but it's not they don't play 7-game series.
When's the next time we get a Game 7?
Well,
process of elimination here. I don't think the Pistons are playing in a Game 7, let alone the playoffs anytime soon.
Your best odds are for the Red Wings next year.
To get in, sneak in, play a feisty competitive series.
Those are your best odds. Could it happen this year for the Tigers? Sure, it could. It's not likely. Your best odds are going to be for the Detroit Red Wings.
With the Tigers, that means you're in the ALCS.
Right. I agree. That's why I said that's why when you ask that question, could they? Sure, they could. Will they? Most likely not.
Nature of the sport is hockey, too, by the way. And even when what if the Pistons made some crazy leap? They're still a candidate to kind of get.
You're going to have to spend a lot of money this offseason. Plus, they're going to have somebody. They're going to have somebody to spend it. Who do they have to spend it right now? There's no president of basketball operations.
And who are you spending it on? It's not a great crop. But don't worry, they have cap space.
Is Halliburton a reason to hang on to Cade?
I would say you're not looking to get rid of Cade regardless.
Some people
right?
think so. I mean, it's kind of like the whole Scooble argument around here a little bit. Some people think the move is actually to move Cade.
So much of the NBA is about getting stars, right? You have to have stars. You drafted him number 1 overall. He's been injured. I don't know that I'm willing to say he won't be a star. Now, if he is, you can get a haul for him. But why am I trading him to then have to go? Exactly. Then I'm going to have to redo the lottery again. How are the Pistons faring in the lottery?
If we don't think he's a star, or if we're going to trade him away, what type of star are you going to get in return? You're probably going to get like for like, or
volume.
Who are you even trusting to make that trade? We don't even know who that could be.
Frustrating thing is the Pacers were in the Pistons' shoes a couple years ago, and they acquired Halliburton.
Through trade.
And that was a win trade for the Kings last year, remember?
Yeah.
With Sabonis. I mean, that's kind of the type of move you've got to try to find somewhere.
Now, the Pistons don't have a Sabonis at this point, like a polished, borderline all-star guy, but they do have to make that type of move where they said, hey, we have the need to pivot. It really was the Kings who felt like, hey, we have Fox and Halliburton. We got to trade one. The Pacers took advantage of that, made sure to get their centerpiece in Tyrese Halliburton. The Pistons are sitting there with Duran, Thompson, Ivy. Do they all fit with Cade? I would argue no. So then how are you going to
Can you package Duran and Ivy?
And try to get a guy who can help you become much more relevant next year? Yeah, but it's got to be someone pulling the strings that isn't even employed yet.
You would hope that somebody out there, maybe watching the way the Timberwolves are winning and gets kind of tricked into, well, we can get our one of our big men like Gobert or Towns and Duran or something like that. Remember, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying you got a copycat GM sitting out saying, okay, if we do this and that. I mean, it was compelling watching that game last night, though. I usually don't. I dialed in because it was a Game 7, and the defending champs were trying to go for a repeat. And it was pretty impressive what the T-Wolves done. And some people have compared the Timberwolves to the old school going-to-work Pistons.
Bill Simmons did. He said he sees shades of the bad boys and going to work in that team.
But you brought up the Halliburton. I know we got to get the break, but we are 1 month and 1 week away from the NBA draft. Is Troy Weaver making the picks?
Better not.
Who's making the picks?
Coming up next.
Jansen.
Go ahead. Pick out of a hat.
That's the thing that is so frustrating right now with the Pistons is they were nowhere and they're going nowhere because nobody can make a decision. Or maybe it's just the fact that nobody wants the job.
Do you like the Reed Shepherd pick?
248. All right, coming up next, we're talking Lions, stuff I think we're all pretty invested in. Are we all on the same page? It's 97.1.
Hey, talking about things that we have no part of right now, the NBA playoffs, they've tipped off. But it's not too late to get on the action with FanDuel. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be here in Detroit. If you're watching the NBA playoffs, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to use on same-game parlays, live bets, championship futures. I think the same-game parlays are a lot of fun because you can put down a little and win a lot. They also have some pre-built for you in the app, so check it out. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Here's what you do. Go to FanDuel.com/Jansen to get started. That's FanDuel.com/Jansen. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NBA and 97.1 The Ticket. Must be 21 or over and present in Michigan. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We will. It's 97.1. Good morning. We're talking little Lions football. You've heard the mantra, Super Bowl or bust. Can we all make that pact this morning? As a show, as a fan base, a city, and see if Doug and Gator want to pass the baton down the line today. Super Bowl or bust. I think it's been said, but I think you need to understand what you're saying. You are saying anything less than a Super Bowl is a bust, a disappointment, a failure, whatever word you want to use. The only satisfying conclusion to the upcoming season for the Detroit Lions is to win a Super Bowl. That means if they win 14 games, John, but don't get it done, they failed. If they go to the NFC title game, dethrone the Niners, but don't win the Super Bowl, it's a failure. Super Bowl or bust is something that you have to hold them to. Are you willing to hold them to that mantra? 248-539-9797. I think they have earned that expectation. This is a compliment. That the only satisfying conclusion to a Lions football season is now a Super Bowl. The team they've built, the roster they've assembled, yes, it's Super Bowl or bust for the city of Detroit.
I'm not ready to say it's Super Bowl championship or failure. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
It is. They come away hoisting the Lombardi. We're having a parade in downtown Detroit with millions of people, or it's a failure.
And to clarify, that doesn't mean the regime is a failure. The window has closed. I think they're going to have a few years to take a crack at it. But for the upcoming season, to me, it is as simple as either you win the Super Bowl or you're disappointed. Or you failed.
Whoa, you said it.
Both.
Disappointed.
Both.
Sure, you could be disappointed.
You'd be disappointed anytime you fail.
But I think using sure. But does a disappointment mean a failure? I know we're talking about semantics here, but I could see a scenario where words do matter, where you make it to the Super Bowl and you're playing, insert any team, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the whatever, Bengals, yeah. And then you lose.
Do you love how he snuck Jim Harbaugh in the Super Bowl there? That was pretty well done.
We're kind of waiting to see what happens. I think it's an extreme long shot. But okay, insert any AFC team. They came to mind. So if that's the case and they lose to whoever makes it in the AFC, I think it's a disappointment. But I don't think I'm going to go far as to say it's a failure. Here's why. Because I'm trying to get through the fact that each team every single year is going to write its own story. They're going to be their own unique team. And if last year's team, if there were no additions, no subtractions, and it was the same team this year, would I expect that they would play the same way? Yes, because there would be a measure of consistency. I can't measure that consistency because there's going to be rookies. There's going to be other players that weren't a part of this team, and they may be major upgrades over the talent that they had last year, but what does that mean in regards to them going out there and playing as a team? Will the defense be better this year? I expect that they will be, but I don't know that that's going to be true.
Are they a perfect football team?
No, there are no perfect football teams. You can find chinks in the armor for Kansas City as well.
Yes.
Less and not as dramatic, but is there a perfect football team? No. But I will say this. I just am not ready to say that this is you win a Super Bowl or it's a failure of a season. And I went through this process with Michigan where in 21 they were unranked and I thought they could be a good team, but they go and they win a Big Ten championship. All right, they check that box. They get to the college football playoffs and then they get their doors blown off by Georgia. Mm-hmm. The next year it was you've got to find a way to win a playoff game, get to that national championship game. And to me, that season was a failure because they stopped at the same spot that they were last year, the year before. And then this year, it was certainly a failure if they didn't do it because they'd been there for the previous 2 years. And if you didn't learn the lessons from before with largely the same cast of characters, it would have been a failure. I said that going into this year. I'm just not ready to say it with the Lions yet because they didn't get to the Super Bowl. They haven't had a seat at the table. If they get there, I reserve the right to again, redo my expectations, but I expect that they're going to be in the Super Bowl because I do think that I'm not saying I don't think they're going to win. I've already said it with a 14-3 record. I do expect them to win, but I'm not going to say it's a failure.
See, Jim or John, you're using the example that in the collective, Michigan got their championship, but there's and examples that don't get their championship.
Right. And,
So
and I
you're-
said
so
going
you're
into
including-
last year, if they didn't win a national championship last year would have been a failure.
Right.
I was on
So
record by saying that.
You're saying it's not a failure this year because you're expecting them to win a Super Bowl over the course of the next few seasons.
Yes. I expect them to be there multiple times.
Well, the San Francisco 49ers are a great example of maybe living that game too, and that's why I think it's an in-season failure. You look back at the first Niner team that played the Chiefs, I think you could kind of have the same take. It was cool getting there. We're young. The core's young. And then they got back to play the same team again. It didn't happen. You know, I think two of the better teams in sports over the last 20 years were the era of the Tigers and then the 49ers right now, because the Niners have been to 2 Super Bowls, 2 conference championships, and they had their one down year where they were banged up and they drafted Lance. So you better be careful what you wish for. And that's why I think this team, I don't know if the Lions are going to be able to hold this thing together roster-wise, top to bottom, and be as deep as they are, unless they become that place where, okay, they lose the Super Bowl next year, and then they're where a free agent comes in and says, I want to play for them for 1 year because
Right.
that's it. You know,
A Von Miller type or
Yeah.
OBJ. And I know he didn't do a lot for the Rams, but he did contribute, and then he got hurt.
I mean, the Lions are in the top tier of teams with odds to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yep. Top 4.
How's that not a failure if they don't win?
Yeah, that's my thought. And I get it. Only one team can be the Super Bowl champion, but you are in that tier of teams that expects to win a Super Bowl. You've done everything to put yourself. You went toe-to-toe in San Francisco last year, okay? And I can't call you losing a fluke because the other team had to make plays, and they did.
Yep.
But Detroit has the Gibbs fumble. You have a Vildor face mask. You have Reynolds drop not 1, but 2 different first down balls on 3rd and 4th downs. Like, the idea is you were that close in their house outplaying them. Now we feel like you had a better offseason, and you had another great draft, and you're stacking this roster, and you're anchoring in your key pieces. Next season, the expectation is absolutely that this team is winning the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean you're going to achieve your goals every season, but you're supposed to set lofty goals, and you understand that part of setting lofty goals is you may fall short. You have to be willing to aim high, though. So that's the question for you guys this morning. Can we make that pact that it is Super Bowl or bust, or is it go to the Super Bowl? I can't imagine getting to the Super Bowl, losing that game, and being like, oh, successful season. Not with the group that they have right now, not what they're capable of. With what they are capable of, it is the Super Bowl or bust to me.
It would be disappointing if they got there and didn't win. I just don't know that I'm ready to say that it's a failure of a season. Now, when we get there, if they do go 14-3, which kind of talking out both sides of my mouth, that's what I expected them to be.
Well, that's why I just wish you would, because you're right there. 14 wins, Super Bowl
I need to see more.
champ. Because you could just step up
I
and say,
did.
I'm not
I did
afraid
say
of
what I
the
wanted to say.
expectation.
I did say what I wanted to
But
say.
that's but maybe it's not you. The reason you wouldn't say Super Bowl or bust is you're afraid of them failing and having to hold them to that.
No, I'm not afraid of them failing.
So you would be willing to say they failed next season?
I'm not willing to say that it's a failure if they get there and don't win, because I don't think that this is a 1-year window.
No, but for that season.
And I know what Tom is saying, that you don't, and Dan Campbell said it last year, there's no guarantee that we even get back to the NFC Championship game.
I'm going to say that the middle season of Michigan, the TCU loss was a failure, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but then you still see it's not fair to use the Michigan because you know you're getting a championship. I just used 2 examples in 2 different sports where you don't get the championship.
If they come up short of the Super Bowl, failure.
So like a first round or second round playoff loss.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
If they lose in the NFC title game again, failure.
They've been there.
The Niners are the example of you had 2 fourth-quarter leads in Super Bowls and you don't have anything.
Yep.
And I think they've missed their shot. That's my personal opinion. We'll see how it plays out.
Well, you're going to...
I'm going to let it play out.
There we go.
I'm not even going to hit the button. 248-539-9797. You guys can weigh in on the phones. Ticket text pouring in. You want to jump in line, jump in on the phones. It's 97.1.
Brought to you by National Benefit Plans, the 2 best words in sports, Game 7. And we got 2 of them yesterday in the NBA. It was the Timberwolves going on the road to Denver, taking care of business against the MVP and the defending champions. Once down 20, Minnesota moves on with a low-scoring 98-90 win. And Anthony Edwards and Kat had some fun in their post-game press conference. Yeah, the other game, not low scoring, by the way. The Pacers blew away the Knicks eventually, 130-109 at MSG. Indy will play the Celtics, and the Wolves will face the Mavericks in the conference finals. First-time major winner at the PGA Championship, Xander Schauffele taming Valhalla with a 21-under performance. He put in a 6-footer for the victory on hole 72, and Scotty Scheffler ended up tied for 8th after his crazy week. Reports say the police charges against him are expected to be dropped. 2 of 3 ain't bad for the Tigers, failing to sweep the Diamondbacks, but they leave Arizona with a series win. Detroit fell 6-4 in yesterday's contest. Starter Matt Manning gave up 10 hits, 4 runs in his 5 innings, but it was the bullpen that took the late game losing decision. From the Corewell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
Ticket text flooding in. You guys want to jump in? 248-539-9797. We will also address the Scotty Scheffler stuff this hour. We spent so much of Friday with it, we can just put a bow on it. But some ticket texts on the Lions. Super Bowl or bust. Texter says that's too much. Some of the best teams during a season don't make the Super Bowl.
Well, there's a lot of variables, and I'm not going to even include the variables in terms of injuries that happen. Part of what has derailed some of San Francisco's Super Bowl hopes is the fact that they lost their starting quarterback, replaced him with Mr. Irrelevant, lost him, and they actually brought him back to try and be able to win a game to get to the Super Bowl. And it just there are variables that can happen. I'm not even playing that card right now. I need to see what this team will be like, because I've been a part of teams where we don't have as much talent as other teams had, but we played as a really good team and we were hard to beat. And then in subsequent years, we went out and added talent and free agency, but we were a worse team.
You can change your opinion. We saw...
Again, I reserve that right.
Everybody can. Everybody did. Last year, you thought, hey, just win the division in a playoff game. Well, now you're sitting there at halftime leading the Super Bowl, and things change. John, clearly, if your quarterback goes down, or if you have a rash of critical injuries, like Penei Sewell, knocking out everything in the studio, is not available in a pivotal game late in the season or the playoffs, like, things do change. But the roster they've assembled is every bit Super Bowl caliber. So I will do them that favor, give them that credit, and hold them to that standard. Now, that comes with the reality that they may not win the Super Bowl, and that's what's hard. It's easy to say Super Bowl or bust when you focus on the Super Bowl part. People don't like to think about the bust part. Texter says, so if they make the Super Bowl and they lose, you have to fire Campbell and Holmes because they failed. No. It would be a failed season, not a failed tenure. Are we able to delineate the difference there? It would mean you'd rally the troops and get them the very next year where the expectation would once again be win the Super Bowl. You've built that team. John, this person calls you out. They say you picked them to win 14 games, but you don't know if the defense will be better. Says, why can't we say the Super Bowl is the expectation?
The Super Bowl is the expectation. Getting to the Super Bowl, winning it, I'm not sure I'm ready to say that this team is the Super Bowl champ. Do I think that they will? Do I think that they can? Yes.
Fans are as hungry as the team. Super Bowl is the expectation. Another one says it's good to be Super Bowl or bust. Making it to the Super Bowl or bust would be more acceptable, signed an unnamed texter. I just feel like if you're there and you win, right? Once you're there, the expectation is you win. And if you don't, I know people are going to claim it's progress, John, right? If they were to win the NFC title this year, it would be progress. But I feel like you're kind of taking an easy out at that point. Why not just say, we're in that top 2 or 3 teams?
Well, I've told you why not. And I do reserve the right to sit here in August after I've seen them play a little bit in practice and maybe a preseason game. Now, we're not going to see the starters probably in preseason games, so it's probably not even a reliable measure. But once you get into the season, you'll know more of what this team is, or I'll know more of what this team is, and then I can tell you if it's Super Bowl or bust. It's a different team than it was last year. And do I think they've made upgrades? Absolutely.
I can't wait for like week 3. John comes in. I'm ready to declare it. Super Bowl or bust.
The clock is ticking.
We did the whole thing, though, 14-3, me and you, harmony, together.
Yeah.
We're positive. 14-3 is Super Bowl or bust. If you get to August and you see some flags in the secondary and I lower to 12-5 because of that, and you do, then it's not Super Bowl or bust. This is a right now conversation. Come on, John, say it. Failure is a very mean word.
It is. People
That's
don't
why
like
Costa
it.
picked it.
Well, you could say disappointing,
Yes.
and we could do soft radio, right? Like,
Yeah. Mr. Smarm. Mr. I hate Jared Goff.
I would be-
oh, no, I like him now.
Oh,
you play well, you earn respect.
Okay,
And
earn
the
it.
Lions have played very well. I think they
Yeah.
have earned it. I think they've earned, that's the word. They've earned the Super Bowl or bust mentality. And maybe people disagree. Ticket Texter says people are scared to measure this team with the ultimate goal. They say we're a really good team, but they don't want to say it.
I just don't get it because you went toe-to-toe with the team that is Super Bowl or bust right now. And you could argue they should have won the game. You beat the Super Bowl champion in the regular season. I mean, we could sit here all day and wonder if they would have beat them in the Super Bowl. I don't get you are on that. You're at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
You're on Mount Rushmore right now with the 4 teams. What's the worst presidents on Mount Rushmore? Is that what we are or something like that? I mean, seriously.
Worst president. You got Lincoln, you got Washington, you got Teddy.
I just think you've got to get over certain steps before I can sit there and say that you are it is Super Bowl or bust or failure. I'm not ready to say failure. Disappointment, absolutely.
Wait,
so
okay.
to you, only once they've made a Super Bowl? Is that
No, they can get there and win it, and I can readjust. You said I have the right to readjust my
We all
expectations
do.
as a game goes, let alone the season.
The Chiefs, they lost to Brady the first time around. Why wasn't that was last year for us against the Niners? Now it's our time.
Well,
So,
they lost to Brady in the Super Bowl.
No, they lost to Brady in the AFC Championship
When he was
game.
in
The
the
first year
Patriots, yeah.
Mahomes started. The next year they won the Super Bowl. How come we're not them? Why?
Well, the answer would be we don't have Mahomes, but I don't want to do that. 248-539-9797. I want to point out this is still a really
Nobody
good football team, and only one team has Patrick Mahomes. And there are Super Bowls that have been won by non-Mahomes quarterbacks since he's been in the league. We can fact check that. 248-539-9797. More ticket text coming in on this. Greg, you had an interesting thought that you wanted to share, maybe an outside perspective, although you are wearing a Lions hat this morning.
Yeah, look, you asked this pretty loaded question of Super Bowl or bust. And to ask me this question now, especially in May, my answer is no. The reason why my answer is no is not because that it's not about what they have the ability to accomplish. I think they can accomplish that. If they can win the Super Bowl, they absolutely can.
Sure.
It's not about the player or the coach expectation. I bet they think that it's Super Bowl or bust. This is about me holding an emotional, some kind of emotional weight or collateral for 8 months on a season that I'm not going to do.
See, but I think there's a rush to that. Like, I remember, and I keep hearkening back to when the Tigers broke through in 2006. They didn't win the World Series, but it was like, wow, they've got a core here. Then they added Miguel Cabrera, and it was all about, from about 2011, 12, 13, that sweet spot of World Series or bust. And those were electric times. And it meant losses hurt a little more, but it meant that you had a team you believe could win the whole thing, and that was kind of the thing that carried you through. I love going into a season knowing I am the big kid on the block, and I'm ready to bully everybody. I think the Lions have built that kind of team.
But
to me, it's not baggage. To me, that's the difference. You say it's like this weight or collateral you're going to hold. To me, it's the wind beneath my freaking wings, to use a Dan Campbell phrase. I love that there are expectations for this football team.
But the idea is at the end, and look, you said it too. Like, you've made this a very clear point that remember what this means is at the end of the season, you have to declare this season
A bust.
yes, no,
Right.
pass, fail, right?
A bust. If you
And
don't win it.
I am not going to hold my emotions throughout the season for 8 months. You said even if they go 14-3, that to me is can't enjoy a 14-3 season. I can't enjoy a nice 6-1 start. Doesn't matter if they don't win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to do that. Jim, I would not do this for Michigan last year. And nobody
Really?
was more. No, in August or September, if you would have asked me, is it national championship or bust for Michigan? I would have the same responses I'm having now. And nobody was more bullish on last year's Michigan team than I was.
Oh, I know. And I maybe the only other person would be the guy sitting across from me over here. But you think it takes the joy away to have an or bust mantra?
It
Yes.
just adds pressure that's not necessary as a fan.
Hey, why do we watch sports? We watch sports simply because we enjoy them and we like them.
It's the ultimate reality TV.
Right. And this, I think, adds an element of unenjoyment because it's, well, what does it matter unless you win the last game of the season, to quote Billy Bean in Moneyball?
I think it adds stakes. I think stakes are what make things more entertaining. I think when you are living that...
says the gambler. No,
I
think that's part of it.
But stakes could be emotional investment. It doesn't have to be log into your account and hit the deposit button.
But it's very similar in terms of the pressure that you're either putting on every game or the course of the season. Now, if you're willing to sit there and say, and I don't know what your Super Bowl or bust translates into dollars of putting money on the Lions for futures and winning the Super Bowl, but I think you're much more comfortable because of the character trait or the personality trait or whatever, however you want to put it, to that you enjoy doing that you enjoy adding more pressure to every single game or every single moment.
I don't think it's baggage. And maybe that is like just a fan, like look in the mirror moment. What kind of fan are you? I don't think it adds baggage. Like to me, it adds oomph.
And that is a point that I want to say too. Like it's an individual decision. This is like a faith formation or like a relationship with a family. Like how you approach it is up to you. Jim, you can say it's Super Bowl or bust. That is your decision, and I respect that decision. That is not how I feel.
Well, that's
so
why
if you're asking for a show packed, I refuse.
Okay, so we have no show packed. Well, John had already refused it, basically spit in my face. Tom and I will shake hands on it, but we do not have a unified front here.
Yeah, that
was
looks,
awkward. Well, I got a mic in my face. I can't.
Is it a fist bump? Is it a high five? Is it a forearm? Bash Brothers? What is it?
Awkward turkey.
How does one do a Super Bowl bust?
Yes, I know it's not two lefts.
Okay. 3 lefts make a right. Anyway, we'll get some of your response. We also want to get into Scotty Scheffler, Heather's news, and a little Tigers before the hour ends. It's 97.1.
Hey, the summer driving season is upon us once again. The combination of increased traffic, big trucks, motorcyclists, and construction all contribute to the fact that summertime in Michigan has more accidents than any other season of the year. And if you're injured in an accident, injury attorney David Femininio and his team are ready to help you out right now. David will never take a fee until he wins your case. I'm going to say that one more time. David never takes a fee until he wins your case. You can speak to David personally right now by calling 855-65-CRASH, or you can go to his website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That's 855-65-CRASH, or on the web at getdavidgetpaid.com.
We have removed the confusion out of the roof buying process and made it simple for the homeowner. I went to see a client and he had a price from $12,000 to $24,000, but he had decided on a company for about $15,000. He found the roof resource. We did it for $9,100. And so what he did with the extra money is he bought a pool for his kids. And to me, that was amazing. Homeowners, when they
Jim Nantz with a whisper. And a PGA championship win, a major win for Xander Schauffele.
Mm-hmm.
Runner-up a couple times, finally a champion.
Good for him.
Yeah, and he was off to a hot start. He finished it with a birdie on 18. Good story. Everybody likes it.
Maybe he'll be recognizable now.
We had some fun with this on Friday. It ended up taking over the show. Not Xander, but Scotty Scheffler, and that he was unrecognizable.
Heather, when did you hear about the whole drama going on down at the golf course?
I heard about it, I think, right when it happened. And we also were listening to you guys at home on our Alexa.
Oh.
So we did hear the show on Friday and tuned in. Pretty crazy story.
It was unbelievable to think that you got the world's number one golfer showing up at, 6:30, 6:45.
Yeah.
And he is arrested, thrown up against the car, handcuffed, put in the back of a police car, transported to the police station. He is put in the orange jumpsuit. They take the pictures, they give him the charges, and then they allow him to leave on his personal recognizance, and he is back at just shortly after 9 to continue his warm-up that he started in the jail cell and shoots. What did he shoot on Friday?
66 would have been, I think, 5
5 under par?
Yeah. I mean, he joked he was stretching in the jail cell. First time he's ever had to do that.
Yeah. That'd be a rarity for most people.
Yeah. The club owner, one of the club owners, is personally chauffeuring him back so that he can complete his round on Friday. All of it happened in the span of,
3 hours?
3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just kind of let it breathe here for a second.
It's actually less than 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, just to think how rapidly that progressed.
We did a lot of theorizing and what's going to happen, and some of this still has to play out. But, John, we have a better grasp of the incident today. How do you feel about it?
Well, I can appreciate the fact that he didn't say, because we didn't hear that he said this, do you know who I am?
Yeah, in fact, he said he didn't.
Right.
Which ironically may have helped him.
Right, because the officer, we had heard the audio that said, he's going to jail, and then he asked, who did I just put back to the? Yeah, who did I just arrest?
Yeah, because a reporter's on the scene. ESPN, was doing the telecast and the coverage, so it was a bunch of those guys that were getting info in real time. It was Jeff Darlington is the first guy that we had cited. Bob Wischusen, kind of a do-it-all guy for ESPN, was there too. We
obviously heard from both parties in regards to the charges that were filed against him, as well as Scotty Scheffler's. He talked after his round of golf on Friday. I think in the very near future, we'll probably hear a joint statement, and either the charges will be pled down or dismissed. I don't know. Second-degree assault on a police officer is really hard to just dismiss.
Unless it didn't happen.
Well, again, the investigation will.
Footage.
Right. So there's a lot of ways out. It all depends on.
Because it is a serious charge. I mean, it's a second-degree felony that carries several years of jail time. He does not seem to be concerned about that. Yeah.
Well, nobody's looking at that going, he's going to spend some time in the pokey. But
will there be a traffic ticket violation citation he ends up paying? Maybe.
I expect that there'll probably be some joint statement that says there was a miscommunication. Here's what happened. And here's what we're doing moving forward. And here's what we're doing to make sure that on our end, on the PGA's end, on the golf course's end, that this doesn't happen again.
From what I've read, I think the cop overreacted. He can say that his pants were damaged beyond repair, which was in the police report. But from eyewitnesses on the scene, the officer was running alongside, chasing the car, maybe tripped and fell, according to Bob Wischusen. The car was moving relatively slow, kind of the pace you would when you pull up to a gate. Even if there was a misunderstanding, you don't have to peaceful when he left the car. He doesn't need to be cuffed and hauled off to a jail cell. You could have sorted out, hey, who are you? Where are you going? You're in a PGA vehicle. It didn't need to escalate the way it did. And it doesn't sound like he was aggressive. He wasn't, do you know who I am? I'm refusing. He cooperated the whole way, all the way to the jail cell, and didn't seem to be the hothead that it initially seemed. It's to Scotty's credit. I don't think he behaved inappropriately.
No.
And I would be surprised if he's charged with anything at this point. And that may be also because of the fact that he is a famous golfer, and this is a PR hit if you do want to pursue this. That's why I think
there's probably some joint statement that comes out, and it's kind of all simpatico at that point.
Yeah, moving on. All right, we'll talk a little Tigers later in the hour, but first, Heather with the news.
You know what was so shocking for me? Besides the whole story, this whole story was a
That it
wild
broke
story,
during our
right?
show?
Like really crazy. I didn't know what he looked like.
That was the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. So of course I had to Google an image and I'm like, that's him. I had a very different image in my head of what I pictured him looking like than what he actually looks like.
You thought he was going to be prettier or more
I don't
handsome?
know. I didn't picture
You like
him.
bearded guys.
I do like beards, yes, but I'm not saying I
Right,
don't
no, I know.
like him or
Yes,
not.
I know.
This was not, it's kind of like a radio personalities when
Yes.
you can't see what they look like. I know I could have seen him, but I don't watch
Sure.
golf, shocker. So I didn't know
Well,
what he
even
looked
if
like.
you watch golf, there are a lot of people that, other than Tiger Woods and maybe Phil Mickelson,
Rory.
would be hard to pick out individuals. Yeah, I think Rory, yeah.
But we played this game on the air. Tom walked in
did
with
you?
headshots.
Oh
and,
my God.
And he had us like,
Yeah.
who is this?
That's what was so shocking to me is that
Yeah.
this is what he looks like. I
Yeah,
had no idea.
There's a lot, and especially when you see him go from when he does the perp walk and goes from in handcuffs to the police. Like you're like, that looks like any other dude that's going to show up to that golf
Average
tournament.
Joe. Have no idea. In other news, a centerline woman made a really bold move when 3 would-be carjackers approached her in the parking lot of a Taylor Target. So this 24-year-old woman, Rachel Smigluski, she was sitting in her boyfriend's vehicle. She was waiting to pick him up from work nearby when 3 young guys wearing surgical masks approached the car, and they demanded her keys, her wallet, her phone, demanded everything. And of course, she was nervous, right? So she attempted to call 911. That's when one of these guys smacked the phone and hit her in the mouth with a gun, then put the gun to her head. So they were armed. So she said, you know what? Here's my keys, right? But it's what she did next that really surprised, well, all of them for sure. So she got out of the car and then she basically said, you know what? I got this. I can take these guys. Sized them up, realized, you know what? They kind of look like scrawny high schoolers. And she started screaming, banging on the side of the car. Other people noticed, called 911. And that's when she decided to charge these guys, got her keys back.
Oh, wow.
And they ran off scared. Yeah, thankfully, it
Mess
obviously...
with the wrong lady.
Yeah, obviously it could have went in a much different direction. Thankfully, it didn't. Turns out these teens ran over to the restroom in a BJ's brew house and were hiding there. They were 14 to 18 years old. Jeez. Young kids, they were saying they told officers they were playing basketball, needed a ride home, couldn't get one, so decided to steal a car. Backfired on them royally for sure.
Yes.
A gator, or I guess a
our
gator,
gator?
not our gator, an alligator.
Oh.
It could be our gator. I don't know. I don't actually know because
There was a gator sighting
there
in
was a
Michigan.
gator sighting. Could be on the loose still in Michigan in a park last week over the weekend. Somebody reported seeing this alligator in Kent Lake at Kensington Metro Park.
I've been swimming there many times.
So I don't, not far from the area. Authorities said last Friday there was somebody reported it. So they sent a big search team out to the lake. They had drones, they had boats, the ATVs, a helicopter, and everyone was there. The DNR, the Zoological Society, the police, everyone was looking. They'd never found the gator. So there's only been one reported sighting.
Okay.
And they never found it. So it could still be there. The park remained open. Swim at your own risk, I guess.
Yeah.
So was it our gator?
He'll be in at 10.
I don't know. Well, will he?
Well,
Or is he still out there
Is
swimming in Kent Lake? I don't know.
Is this our Loch Ness Monster?
Could be.
In Kent Lake.
I got some great stories. I'll do this one next. A grandma is in trouble with the law after she grabbed Goofy's butt at Disney World. And then she squeezed it numerous times. Yeah, and while she squeezed it, she said, woohoo! So the guy who was playing Goofy, this 32-year-old man, he was taking pictures with her family when it happened. Well, he's not taking this lightly. He wants
come
to.
on.
He reported it to police and he wants to press
I
charges.
get it, but I mean, who doesn't love saucy grandma?
When reached for comment, he said, "Gorsh."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
that is Heather with the news.
So is it squeeze once and she's okay, or 2 squeezes and that's too much?
I don't know the answer.
Or just the slap.
It might have just been the actual.
You're making me think we're going to have to update our policy here or something with the way you're asking these questions.
No,
John, the answer is 0. You shouldn't be grabbing
Yeah.
people's ass.
She's a spanker.
People, 97-1. Ton of offense on Friday and Saturday. Tigers take 2 or 3 over the weekend against the Diamondbacks. Our question this morning: are you holding out hope for a run? Or have you given up on that? 248-539-9797.
Well,
Baez even hit over the weekend, which is how you know something's up.
Well, I'm not giving up hope on a run. They're a team that's 23-23, and as the further down the road we go, it becomes less and less likely. They're 6.5 back right now, and I don't think that their record is going to be a lot different than it is now at the end of the month. I think they're going to be right around 500. I was 1 game under, you were 1 game over.
Yeah.
And when you look at what they're going to have to do, eventually they're going to have to start putting winning months together. And you're going to have to find a way to be 3 games above 500 in June, maybe 3 or 4 ahead in July. Same thing with August, to hope to be in the realm of striking range at the end of the season. Is it likely? I don't think it's likely that they compete for the division, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're done, they're out of it.
They aren't out of it because they're going to play more games, but we've reached 40 plus now, and this is kind of the time where you take the inventory and you assess who you are, and they're a lukewarm baseball team. They're not going to get hot. They're not going to cool down. They're going to pitch themselves into most games, and they're going to hit just enough to stay about 500. So I don't think they have the horses to make up the ground. You got teams 10 games over 500 in your division. I don't think they're going to make the gap up over as many games as there are still. So if you want to label me someone who is giving up on them, fine. I guess if the shoe fits, I'm not holding out hope. I'm certainly not in the first camp. 248-539-9797. Mentioned Javi Baez hit, John.
Yeah, how about that?
How big a deal?
We had a sighting.
Well, and that's the thing. How big a deal are we supposed to make of this?
Not that big of a deal, because it's not like we have 43 games to judge Javi Baez on. We've got 2 years and 46 games. And AJ told us last week that they're hoping to extend the hot streaks and lessen the cold streaks. Same thing. I still have the same feeling about Javi as I did last week. Is the hot streaks, when have they lasted over a 7-day period? I'm not even going to say a Sunday to Saturday, but just a 7-day period, Wednesday to Tuesday. Like, when have they lasted that long? And if we're trying to make a 5-game heater for Javi Baez into 6 or 7 games, I get that that's an improvement, but it's not improvement enough to look at it and say, okay, yeah, he's going to be a major contributor down the stretch.
His career in Detroit, he's a 228 hitter. He's at 209 for the season. This just kind of is who he is.
Yeah.
Is he going to perk up a little? Sure. I think rather than proving us wrong by hitting, I think he proved us right. We've said all along, if this team hits a little bit, it makes a big difference. He hit a little bit over the weekend. He had a lot of it, to be fair. And they won 2 of 3 games. And we've said that with Torkelson, right? If he could get going at the heart of the order, Baez, if he gets something out of this black hole in the lineup, it would go a long way. They took 2 or 3 because they hit a little bit. And the question is, will they sustain hitting throughout the season? And I don't know that they have the horses to do that. You would need Colt Keith to really get going here. You would need Torkelson to sustain. I know he had a home run over the weekend. You would need Javi Baez to be the Javi Baez you paid him to be, but it feels like after 2+ seasons, he's just not that guy.
You guys, though, they went through a bad stretch of baseball. Maybe this was their bad stretch where they went 3-9. And Cleveland and Kansas City are going to have moments like that this year. I don't think but it doesn't have to be about the division. They're 1 game out on the wild card. I mean, you are what you are. You're sitting there, and I thought there was encouraging signs in the win on Saturday night. That's a game that they have lost consistently this year, where they're not going to score and they're going to lose the game, and they wasted a very solid pitching performance. Instead, they went and they salvaged the game for their starter instead. That's what they've been doing. They're hanging their starters out to dry, but they didn't Saturday. That's why they won the series. They almost did it yesterday, too.
But let me ask you a question. We'll do the way too early wild card because you invoked it. Right now, the Orioles are in the wild card. The AL East is going to get 2 teams, at least. So Yankees and Orioles, that spot's covered. Kansas City Royals are in there right now. Tigers get 3 in a row against Kansas City. Maybe we reevaluate this in the middle of the week.
Even 2 out of 3.
But Kansas City has been what we wanted the Tigers to be, right? They're carried by a young star position player in Bobby Witt Jr. And they're 7-3 in the last 10 games. Then you get into Minnesota, who was supposed to be better than Tigers before the season. They are right now, even with all the injuries that they've dealt with. The Boston Red Sox pitched just about as well as the Tigers. They don't hit either. They're kind of the same teams. And then there's the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros, both of which who I think over the long haul are better than the Tigers. Like, sure, you're in the wild card right now. Do we foresee them being in the wild card in July, August? I don't.
I think striking distance.
How many games?
Look, right now I would say I'm siding with
6
you.
to 8?
Oh, I think they can be within 3 games.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.
They got the pitching to be there. This is about Torkelson just doing a little bit more. Look, it's hard to argue it right now, but like I said, I just saw some encouraging signs on Saturday night. Rallying to win a game like that, it's one thing. Look, I am with you guys. I don't trust Javi for a second. I think we know who he is. The fact that he hits good in that ballpark just makes it almost more laughable.
He's a Hall of Famer at Chase Field.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see it happen somewhere else. But in terms of everybody else, the bigger sample size this year is that they are a team that could win potentially 84 games. The Arizona Diamondbacks won 84 games last year and went to the World Series. So I think it's a little premature. There needs to be a balancing act between starting pitching and hitting. They were on two sides of the pendulum. This weekend, I think it came a little bit more to a place where you could win consistently.
But I'll point this out. Who they are, and the more they play, the more we learn. John, you mentioned they're 4-4 in their last 8 games.
Yeah.
I think they're 4-4 in their last 8 series, too, at this point.
But that happens in a 162-game season.
My point, though, is they don't hit well enough to take advantage of their pitching, and they're just going to kind of stay in this space where they hover. That's what they are.
And I used 8 games because they were 500. If I go to 10 games, they're 4-6. And so it's going to be one of those where they are hovering. But if you can find, like if Wenceel Perez continues to play like he is, Andy Ibanez continues to hit like he's been able to hit, hopefully a little bit better glove in the field. Gio Urshela has been hitting the ball. Kerry Carpenter, and then Spencer Torkelson, Colt Keith, they find a little bit more consistency than they've had. Riley Green gets back to where he was maybe 10 days ago versus where he is in the last 10 days. Now you're starting to see a lineup that can score some runs. Are they going to average 5 runs a game? No. But with the pitching that they have, they don't have to. The problem is going to be at some point, I don't know who it's going to happen to. We've already seen it with Maeda, and because he's been down for 2 starts with an illness. But at some point, an arm is going to get sore. There's going to be a blister on a pitcher's finger or something that prevents them from a start. Matt Manning, do we see something better than we saw yesterday? The track record says yes, but how can they handle injuries in the pitching rotation?
Let me break it up like this. There's pre-Memorial Day, and then there's going to be immediately following Memorial Day. Pre-Memorial Day, you're going to have 3 straight on the road against Kansas City, and then you play Toronto and Pittsburgh, who have losing records. Mm-hmm. Chance to...
They split with Pittsburgh earlier.
Sure. Chance to do something. Memorial Day essentially on, you're going to have Boston and Texas on the road, Milwaukee. Sure, can they beat some bad teams? Yeah, will they...
Houston on the road, Atlanta on the road.
Right, yeah. I mean, again, we can go through the whole schedule. It feels like there's a chance right now for them to pick up momentum, and they didn't, right? I mean, in this stretch where they were the loser Marlins, and they had chances to pick up ground, and they're still a 500 baseball team, which is what casts doubt to me that they're ever going to go on a meaningful run this season.
Well, go ahead. No, I was going to say, that's why coming out of April, they were 17-13. And we thought, okay, well, they have a little bit of a buffer. And you and I both thought they're going to be right at 500 coming out of May. Then you look at their June schedule, and June is going to be tough. And so do we think that coming out of June, and we'll make that assessment when we get there, but are they going to be, if I'm 1 under 500 coming out of May, am I 3 under 500 going out of June into July? Or is it like, what is this team? Because they're going to have run production on the road against Boston, against Texas, against Milwaukee at home. Like, they're going to have production.
Okay, I know people are going, they took 2 or 3 over the weekend. You're being too mean. I'll put it this way. They could have been taken on water after losing to Miami, and they didn't. They took 2 or 3. I do think they're a team that's going to hold their ground. I don't think we're going to have like a disastrous summer. I don't think they're going to lose 90-plus ball games.
If they're a 500 team, what does that mean in the wild card race? Because you're 6.5 back now of the division. And, I mean, if you're 2 games under 500 going into July, I don't think that gap is going to narrow, but what does it mean in the wild card?
I mean, and with any of this to happen, Riley Green's got to get going. He's got to get back to where he is because he needs to be their offensive leader in most statistical categories if this is going to actually materialize into 86 wins.
Well, he's the engine. I mean, he bats near the top of the order. He's got speed. He's got power. The uppercut swing. He's good on the base paths. He brings a swagger. Yeah.
And the reason I say, what does it mean for the wild card? Because Texas right now, they're tied with a 500 record, 24-24. They played 2 more games. They're just ahead of the Tigers for that wild card spot. The Boston Red Sox, the Houston Astros, they're right behind the Tigers. So it's going to be a pivotal 2 to 3 week stretch here that's coming up.
I trust the teams down in Texas more. Hey, that's why they play the games. We'll figure it out. Tom, I don't know if you saw this. I gave John a heads up. MSU's athletic director has thoughts on Connor Stallions. Breaking news today with some quotes. We'll get to that coming up next, 97.1. Covered a lot of ground today on the show. Game 7's everywhere in sports. You got the Lions question. Now that the schedule's out, offseason's largely over. Expectations are high. Is it Super Bowl or bust? I want to get Doug's thoughts, Gator's thoughts. I ran a poll question kind of in the background during the show today.
Oh, you did?
53% said Super Bowl or bust. But it's damn near a coin flip. There's plenty of people that go, hold on, I'm not going to call it a bust if they win the NFC title game and fall short in the Super Bowl.
Well, we're 50-50 on the show as well. Greg is on my side. Tom's on your side.
Yeah. What do you think those guys? Will they be willing to label a season a bust that includes playing in a Super Bowl? Probably
I don't
not.
think either of those
Probably not.
No.
I think I just figured something out. I'm the most all-in person on the Lions on this show. I said 14-3, and I said it's a bust if they don't win it. Uh-oh.
Yes, but 2 years ago, you proclaimed that you are falling in love with.
I think this is the year it all
Lions.
comes together.
Oh, boy.
It's very possible.
Like, I think they're going to be the best team in the NFL. I do.
I mean, if you ask the question, okay, Kansas City's going for a three-peat, right? It hasn't happened ever.
No.
Three-peat. And their offseason, by the way, hasn't been great. If you're going to ask who is going to win it not named Kansas City, if I think the Lions are better than the Niners, then it's the potpourri of the AFC. Then it would be the Bengals or the Ravens. And at that point, yeah, the Lions are right there. Yes.
I think the Bengals are going to be back with a vengeance this year. And I think maybe the one place where I might be most wrong is I'm not completely buying Green Bay yet. And that's a pretty rogue opinion. I understand that. That's just my opinion.
Now, John referenced PFF's offseason grades. Lions got an A+. I think the Packers were like a B or a B-. So I don't think it's like that outrageous. We'll get their thoughts when they come in a second. John, I have some Connor Stallions news.
Oh.
It does not involve Michigan. It involves my school. I actually wish I had more news to share. This is from the Lansing State Journal.
We've kind of all been waiting for more news to share.
Yeah, so this is the Lansing State Journal. It's Graham Couch. The headline, MSU AD Alan Haller says Connor Stallions' investigation could impact the relationship with Central Michigan. It's been months. Neither CMU nor the NCAA has said a word about the findings of their investigation, at least not publicly, or to MSU Athletic Director Alan Haller. He made that clear during an interview last week. He said, quote, I'm interested in the outcome of the investigation, and it could impact our relationship with CMU. MSU is scheduled to play the Chippewas in football in 2027 and again in 2030. Is he implying that those games may be taken off the table?
I mean, okay, it would impact Central Michigan. Possibly. I mean, we've all been waiting for some type of result of, I mean, was there even an investigation? We heard that they were going to look into it, but
was that hollow?
What does that mean?
Yeah. What was it hollow? Are we ever going to hear exactly? Because what concerned me as a CMU alum was, why don't we know who this guy is on our sideline?
Right.
And if it is Connor Stallions,
why is he there?
Why is he there? Why are we either helping Michigan or why is he helping cheat for us? I also don't want my school to be cheating.
Right.
So I looked at it and I want him to get to the bottom of this. I don't want it to be swept under the rug. And if we have to deal with any consequences, so be it. Some of those consequences may be not playing MSU in the future, according to Alan Haller, if I'm reading between the lines correctly.
Well, I mean, we just need to, what is the information? And if the information is, well, we're not pursuing it, I think that raises its own level of concern.
Volumes. And there has to be, here's the thing. Mount Pleasant, there's not exactly a big media scene there. It's not like they're getting, pushed up against it and hey, give us answers.
Yeah.
There's one local paper who may not even have a beat writer and then a student newspaper. It's not like they're getting grilled on this stuff on a daily basis, but I do think if you're MSU, you want to know the answer. I think students want to know the answer. Alumni want to know the answer. I think college football fans want to know the answer.
Yeah.
Do we, I know you can't answer this, but do you feel like we get an answer? I mean, what's your gut tell you? Does CMU eventually have to step up and say, hey, here's our results. For better or worse, this is who this person was. Here's how they got there. They gotta, right? They have to. Unless there's nobody cares and it goes away.
I mean, what does it matter for Central Michigan if they haven't been investigating it?
Right.
Like are they not going to play in Michigan State in 2027
or 30
in 3 years from now or 30? I mean, Michigan
Maybe
just
don't care.
Scheduled Eastern Michigan for those same years. They'll pick up a different opponent.
Right. Life goes on. Those are good paychecks, though, for smaller schools.
Oh, sure they are.
Yeah, and they just need
but there's probably going to other be Power 5 schools that they're looking to cash in against.
I liked playing them, though, because every once in a while we'd get them.
Yeah.
They ended up being a big
Maybe
deal.
that's their way out.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. They're scared. Scared to face us. Gator, we just brought up Alan Haller quote right at the end here. He says, we're very interested to know the results of CMU's investigation with Connor Stallions, and it could change the relationship with the two schools based on the findings. Do you harbor any resentment to my school based on what happened?
Depending on what the result is.
Let's say it was Connor Stallions. He was there in his...
well, then yes,
Okay.
100%. Why wouldn't I? I mean, that
Would you refuse to play us?
Oh, is that it?
Well, they're scheduled for 27 and 30, and the implication here is like, what would change?
I don't know if that's any big deal or not.
Okay.
Play Central or don't play Central. I don't really care.
Well,
about
we
them
get you
on
every once in a
schedule.
while, Gator.
Yeah. Okay. And
He's so dismissive.
right.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, what this story? I mean, let's not bury the lead on the story there. If it were to come out like that, because it's the Central Michigan
Cheated.
would have cheated,
And they should be punished.
Blatantly have cheated.
Pretty blatantly.
The fact that this thing could go, to the where Central like organizes. Yeah, we got your gear all lined up. Here's your
Here's your Adidas stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, it's I don't know, it's bothersome, but that whole story's bothersome. So
Yeah, it wasn't a big part of the show. I just saw it right before we wrapped up here. Big part of the show was our Lions conversation. Super Bowl or bust. Are you comfortable putting that moniker on the upcoming season?
yeah, I mean that's the expectation. But what does bust mean? So if they don't get there, then what? Then I'm going to be disappointed all off season.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every fan is allowed to dream now. This team got to the NFC Championship game. They were 30 minutes away from getting to the Super Bowl, and probably should have, by the way that they had played.
Yep.
And, a handful of mistakes in
I'm with
about 5 minutes changed all that. But because this team has not changed for the worse, they've only gotten better in the offseason. Absolutely, my expectation is you're competing for a Super Bowl.
Okay, but the way that it was then clarified, Super Bowl or bust is kind of left up for interpretation.
But bust means it's a failed
obviously
season.
it would be disappointing, or is it a failure if they don't win the Super Bowl?
Right. You win 14 games, you win the NFC title. Part of the moniker means you have to. Super Bowl's the fun part. The bust part isn't.
Yeah, I guess the only way I would say in that scenario, John, is that if the team that they lose to in the playoffs goes on to win the Super Bowl, then I could be like, okay, well, at least they lost to the team was the eventual Super Bowl champion.
Right, but if let's play it out. They beat San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. They're in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, is it a failure?
No.
That's what I said
So
as
then
well.
it's not Super Bowl or bust, which is okay.
I don't know. I took it as get to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Once you get to the big game, it's like
Interesting.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
Doug, Super Bowl or bust? Did you subscribe to that mindset?
It's hard. If they get to a Super Bowl, it's hard for me to call a season a failure. But I think it's classic sports talk radio of who's got higher standards. I know how this works.
But he hasn't won in 14 games. I figured he'd be all on board. We'd all rally. We'd unify. Hell yeah, Super Bowl or bust. One goal only. Super Bowl champs. Clearly, there's more nuance than that.
I would say that
there
for
is
the
some
team,
nuance to it.
I hope the team is wired that way.
Yes.
We don't have to be, but they should be. Yes. So,
What's the plan today?
Champ and Chump got a lot of Tiger stuff right out of the gate, recapping a decent weekend for them and other stuff.
I love the stuff. That's next, 97.1.
All right, good Monday, everybody. Doug Karsh. That is Scott Anderson. Hope you had a great weekend. Scott, did you have a great weekend?
Yeah, it was all right. Well, I mean, it was nothing. I didn't do anything special. I don't think there was anything special, but the weather was beautiful and enjoyed the weather.
Did you get a hailstorm last night?
It's a great question. If I did, I didn't hear it. I don't think I did.
Okay. I think you would have noticed.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Was it overnight or was it?
No, around 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock-ish?
Yeah.
Maybe a little earlier than that.
Okay.
Thick.
We got absolutely smoked with. I couldn't believe it.
We got just a little bit of rain. There were thunderstorms were passing through the area, but I never really. It didn't. I mean, nothing more than a sprinkle.
We lost power.
Heard thunder all over.
We lost power. Yeah, we had the. I will say I do appreciate the outage map. The outage map that shows you and it gives an estimated time.
Mm-hmm.
The estimated time kept moving. But I do appreciate the outage map.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a map for when they're going to remove an old pole in my backyard. Still there.
You know that's never happening.
Can't fix my fence until the damn pole's gone with the old power lines.
It doesn't sound like an ideal situation.
I'm sorry. Was that out loud?
Yes. How long's that fence, that damage been done?
Well, the original damage was done in January, where the power lines were knocked down. They fixed that after 6 days. Yeah. Well, and because they hadn't taken down the old pole with the old wires still connected to it, yes, they are dead. Those aren't live anymore. They connected new wires to a new pole. But the old stuff is still there, and because they didn't, when there was a storm about a month and a half ago, that pole, then the old pole, then came crashing down on my fence again and caused damage to another portion of the fence. So let's go, DTE.
Bottom line is, you realize that's never getting removed.
Oh, it's going to get removed.
Is it?
Yeah.
When we did the topic, didn't everyone say, like, they're not coming back, Gator?
Well, I called them last week. I talked to somebody last week, and it's apparently going to be discussed. Now, I did this again. I did this about a month ago, and I was met with a text message that came back and said, we're going to check on the problem. And then I got another text message about an hour later saying, problem solved. Power is restored. I'm like, I'm not without power. That's what I said to the person. What are you talking about? I don't. So I had a very long conversation with someone last week that lasted seriously like 25 minutes on the phone, describing everything that happened and why it's different. And please, God, do not give me the same damn automated text message that says the problem's been fixed, when clearly you have to come out and remove a pole with old power lines that belong to DT.
What about an over-under of July 1st?
Before I hear something or before it's actually removed?
Before it's actually removed.
I'll go over.
Okay. What about August 1st?
I would hope that it's in July at some point.
July. We're hoping for July.
Please.
All right.
I'm done.
Look, these jobs are way more complicated. One thing that sucks is what I am now getting super hyper frustrated with, which I'm sure everybody else has reached a breaking point with this already. I don't want to ever have to call customer service. So I try to do everything online. But when you don't have the option you need, when you visit the website to file your complaint or go to and they don't have what you need, whatever your billing question is or service question, and you have to call, the automated answering services are just awful. They're just awful. And when a human answers the phone first, I'm like, well, hello.
Right.
What a pleasure to speak to you.
You're not a robot.
Yep. How do I prove I'm not? Have you seen that commercial?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the actress.
Yep. The actress.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, the automated service is just awful. But when it comes right down to it, it's just a level of frustration that you're going to hit all these buttons. You're going to tell them what your problem is. You're going to answer your question. And then when you finally talk to somebody, the person that you get to, 7.5 minutes later, will ask you all the questions you already answered. It's just, what's the purpose of this? They're probably hoping we just hang up. All right. So nothing that exciting this weekend for you.
I guess, no, nothing terribly exciting.
Yep. I will tell you.
Was there anything terribly exciting with you?
No. Well, you'll find this exciting. Your favorite place to get a sub sandwich is?
Jersey Giant.
I went to Jersey Giant for the first time ever. We had a fundraiser yesterday. What?
Okay, I'm excited. Go ahead.
I had a fundraiser yesterday for my son's baseball team. We were delivering mulch all day. First of all, I got to drive a U-Haul truck, pretty big one. And the boys, you have to deliver mulch. Like people order mulch way ahead of time, but they're paying the same price, and we deliver the mulch to them. So it saves people time, the effort, and the mulch just shows up. Now, if you want your mulch sooner than May 19th, anyway, you got to wait. But we delivered the mulch yesterday, and so we had something like 480 bags. We had to load them all into the back of this U-Haul truck, and I got to drive it around. And one of the cool parts was by the end of the day, I was, instead of just pulling up to the curb and the boys just want to throw the mulch on the extension, but some people have requests, could you please set it by the garage? I got to the point where I was backing this thing up, wheeling up driveways.
You became a boss.
I kind of felt like a boss. There was one driveway it was like a double wide driveway that had two cars. I kind of had to work my way through backwards. Wow. And probably the best backup job I did was on a long, winding driveway. And I got to the top, and the woman comes walking out and goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, we're here with your mulch." And she said, "We didn't order any mulch." And I'm like, "Well, it says right here at 2110." And she goes, "Yes, this is 2101. And I'm like, "Huh."
Thank you for pointing out my dyslexia.
Yeah. I'm like, damn it. So I had to pull all the way back out. But I'm like, well, another driveway, I get the back. So the boys who just want to throw it like on the lawn way down there.
Yeah,
I was like, no, let's do this right. And I was having fun backing this 15-foot U-Haul truck up.
You just need really good mirrors. Is really what it comes down to. And then there's hope and a prayer about directly behind you.
Yeah.
That isn't covered by the mirrors. And
yep.
then I'm guessing these don't have a backup camera.
They do not have backup cameras. They don't even have automated windows. I had the crank.
Oh, the crank. Oh, no.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
That is interesting.
So it was a bit of a throwback.
So afterwards, you went to the Giant?
Yeah. So we asked my son. That's why I started the story. We asked my son, what do you want? All right, we're done. Hard day's work, hard labor. 4 hours driving around, throwing bags of mulch all over. The brown mulch and the black mulch weighed the most. We love the cedar mulch deliveries because the cedar mulch was really light. But anyway, we get done, and he says he wants Jersey Giant. So I said to my wife, I still had to drop the truck off, and one house we came up one bag short, so I had to go back to the yard, grab the one bag, and then go drop it off. So they went to Jersey Giant. My wife went and picked it up, and the first thing she texted back was, "These are the biggest subs I've ever seen."
15-inch sub.
Massive. And I just told my wife, you know what I like?
Turkey and cheese.
No. She got the buffalo chicken one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And she got a Chipotle chicken one, and my son got the steak hoagie one.
Went all off the board.
What do you mean?
Well, for me, because old school Jersey Giant, you had like 8 choices or 10 choices, something like that. And it was just variations of turkey, ham, prosciutto, which is like a spiced ham, capicola, which is another kind of spiced ham, and that was basically it. Like you had maybe salami or pepperoni.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of combination of all that would result in this. Then the one time, then they got excited and they added the roast beef, and then they added a tuna, and now you go there and they have all these other Chipotle chicken and like the stuff that you're looking for too. So it's very, very different. It's great.
Yeah.
More variety, which is awesome, but I still just go get the number 12, which is the turkey and prosciutto.
Anyway, it's pretty damn good and big.
Yeah.
And I ate half of it, and I'm like, let me take a break here. Fell asleep, and now I've got the other half for lunch today.
Boy.
Yep. So there you go.
Well, I'm excited for you. I'm glad you went to the Giant, or you got the Giant.
Like it. I think it's pretty good.
It's really good. Bread's great.
All right, so Tigers over the weekend take 2 or 3 from Arizona. I want to know where you're at with them because you were defeated last week. Gator kind of gave up on the Tiger season last week, and I don't. It wasn't like you. It was out of character for you, and I want to know where you are after they explode for 25 runs in the desert over the weekend. Take 2 of 3 from Arizona. Series starts with Kansas City tonight, and tonight, Gator. They are on something called cable television. It's an FS1 game. So,
okay.
Well,
yeah. Okay.
Get to see this Tiger.
So I don't have to watch on my phone or my computer.
You don't have to watch on your phone or your computer, no.
Good.
Yeah. So FS1 game tonight. I want to get to where Detroit is with this team. We will do that at 10:20. Champ and Chump, we do it every Monday. We'll get to that today at 10:35. Hey, I know we just made it through the weekend, but that doesn't mean the party has to end. Keep the fun going with Happy Hour at Twin Peaks. Aurelia's in a bar in the state that can touch their happy hour Monday through Thursday from 2 to 6 and 10 to close. They offer up some of the best deals in town on some of your favorite food and drinks, like $3 Wells, $4 Tall Domestics, $3 shots, all pair great with scratch-made favorites like their mozzarella cheese bites, fried pickles, queso, and crispy mini tacos. How about this for a deal? You can get a shot, a beer, an app, and some tacos for less than $20. How great is that? So thinking about it, your drive home, bumper-to-bumper traffic, they're fixing the damn roads. You can sit in that mess, or you can hang out with the beautiful Twin Peaks girls, take advantage of their awesome food and drink prices. How good is the food? Even I like it. I love it. Plus, good sports bar. They carry baseball games you can't see elsewhere. It's a great place to go. Twin Peaks, to find a location nearest you, go to twinpeaksrestaurant.com. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, and scenic views. All right, so where are you at? Where are you at, man?
With the Tigers?
Yeah, where are you at?
I'm at where I was on Friday, because I said Friday that they're going to score runs over in Arizona. I'm not going to be surprised if the bats wake up, but it's got to be a consistent thing. And I'm looking at the Kansas City series as more important to me than the Arizona series was.
Probably is.
It just, that got things going. Obviously, I'm watching the game Friday night, and they just get the hit parade going after it started off being not so much that hit parade, and it was great to see. It was great to see Colt Keith going 4 for 4 in the game. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He needed the confidence. Javi Baez over the weekend, he showed up, and then we had another torque bomb yesterday. Good God, that was a bomb he hit yesterday.
One that went way, way, way up there.
Yeah, 428 to straightaway center field, basically, a little bit on the left field side. And like to see Kerry Carpenter get some good at-bats there, have extra base hits, and almost has the inside the park home run yesterday. But perfect relay. I mean, nipped by an inch at the plate. I mean, it was just so close. On a ball that, if you watch the highlight, if you haven't already, gotten the Bally's app, so you had to watch the highlight on Twitter or wherever. That ball hits up halfway up that wall.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. No idea. Can you explain to me why the line for a home run is like 18 feet above?
I don't know.
In straightaway center field. Like, if you want to do homage to the Green Monster at Fenway Park and do that at left field because your dimensions are coming in a little bit, I get that. Fine. But when a ball has to be hit 410 feet to straightaway center field and then has to also carry 18 feet of wall, makes no sense to me. Because there's a part where you see where perhaps the yellow line should be on the wall, which is like it's 7 or 8 feet. It should be there, and it's not. I don't know. It was just a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sure that I'm not the first one to make that observation about Arizona and how stupid that is. But nonetheless, it was a very entertaining weekend. They came close. They had tied the game, and if Carpenter had scored on that, they would have taken lead 5-4, but they ended up losing it 6-4 in the final finale yesterday. But look, it's all going to be about consistency, right? Yep. And I think two guys in particular have to be there that aren't, and that's Torkelson, and I think Colt Keith is awfully important. This is his rookie season. You're trying to build some kind of confidence in a young man. He's still hitting below 200, but the 5 hits over the weekend, that's a pretty good start for him to let's go. And he had some good swings last week that he didn't get rewarded for. There was the comments he made about the dimensions or at Comerica Park, whatever. He was just kind of marveling, wow, I guess you really got to have to hit one out there. It's not minor league baseball. No, Colt, it's not minor league baseball.
It is not.
So you're going to have to really hit that ball if you're going to pull it there. But those are the two guys that stand out to me. The other guys I expect are going to be fine. Like, I don't worry about Riley Green too much. I think he's a really good player. And I think the other guys they have, the Cannas, the Veerlings, they are what they are. We're already seeing it. I don't think that they've got much more to give. I think that they're consistently 260 players, somewhere in that range, 240 to 260. But with Canna, he gets on base, so you like that aspect of it. Perez, I don't know. I don't know if this is just Akil Baddoo 2.0, which I kind of feel like it is.
Mm-hmm.
But can they get that for the whole season? We'll see. Baez had a great weekend, but I'm not counting on Javi Baez. I'm counting on Torkelson and Colt Keith. They gave Colt Keith the contract before he set foot on a Major League Baseball diamond. Before he had his first at bat, he was given the big contract extension. And there's a reason for that. They believe in him. For Scott Harris and company to give him that contract, I mean, based on what he's done, Scott Harris as general manager of this team or president of this team, I was stunned that they did that. And yet here they are. That's what they've done. And he's not one of his draft picks, but likes the guy a lot, clearly. And we know that Torkelson has more to give. And Torkelson's on pace for what he did last year.
So the thing about Colt Keith, I mean, he's raised his batting average 50 points in the last 10 days. And now, given the bar was set really low. But the one thing about the organization and where they are right now is they have taken on this demeanor this season of, hey, we're kicking the tires on all our assets. We're going to kick the tires on our assets, see where we are, and evaluate. They didn't add gas, okay? This offseason, they did not add gas. They didn't say, we're going to go for it. Now, maybe they'll do that at the trade deadline. The play has to dictate that, and I suspect that they probably won't. But if they can stay within striking distance, maybe, just maybe they will. But at some point, Chris Ilitch has to approve or Scott Harris has to decide. Like there's this sort of, I don't know that Detroit agrees. I think Detroit thinks Chris Ilitch doesn't want to spend, but I'm not sure that Scott Harris doesn't want to kick the tires on his assets before he decides what to do. But Colt Keith doesn't get this opportunity if the organization had taken on a more aggressive demeanor. They're allowing Colt Keith to cut his teeth and to work his way through his struggles and to do things like wait till May before he really starts to maybe, catch up to major league pitching and have the opportunity to raise his batting average 50 points in 10 days. That's part of their demeanor right now is we are going to let this kid work his way through it. If they had added gas the offseason, Colt might be back at Toledo. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the catch-22 of where they are. We want them to compete. We want this team to be right there. But I do also find seeing the next gen of players get an opportunity here fun. I mean, Jace Young's going to get called up soon.
Yeah.
He just is.
He deserves it.
He had his weekend. He had 11 hits and hit 2 home runs in 4 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They had a doubleheader. I think it was Friday. And now he's got 8 home runs down in Toledo in 40 games. So he's going to get called up soon. And, oh, by the way, he plays third base.
Yeah.
So you could see an infield with Torque, Keith, and Young in the next month, maybe. And that's the next gen of infielders. So, yeah, what Colt Keith did this weekend was cool. But I think Detroit's relationship with this baseball team right now is in an unprecedented, weird place. And I want to get into the details of that. Plus, our champ and chump will have that today at 10:35. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1 The Ticket. Let's get to our Champ and Chump nominations right here. And then get back into this Tiger team and this odd relationship I think this city and this fan base has with this team right now. Champ and Chump on a weekend. We do this every Monday. We single out the people that had the best weekends and call out the people whose weekends, well, they need to be called out. And we tally up your votes. Is the way it works. You vote for it. And then we post on our website on Tuesday who the people select as Champ and Chump of the weekend. So, Gator, I will start my Champ of the weekend as the aforementioned Spencer Torkelson. Hey, we need you, buddy. And 3 home runs in the last 7 games starting to come around. Good to see that he is perhaps got back on track for the rest of the year. So notice that all the runs that seem to come with. So sparking the lineup, Spencer Torkelson, my Champ of the weekend.
Well, speaking of runs, how about 7 RBI over the weekend with 8 hits and 4 doubles? That's what Javi Baez did. We've been complaining about Javi Baez for years, and rightfully so, but when he does well, you got to praise him, and that was a hell of a weekend for Javi Baez.
All right, my Chump of the weekend is along those lines. I did see some social media activity about people who are upset to see Javi Baez do good things because they want him to bottom out and get released. It's a weird...
That makes sense.
I don't know. Like there's the classic that's probably never going to happen. They should trade the guy. He sucks.
Right. You can't trade him.
Because
going to take him.
Because a player that's owed $90 million that sucks. There's a huge market for him. So how do you get the most out of him? Well, most likely that way. I don't think anybody's ever going to trade for Javi Baez. If you want him gone, I can understand it. But in the meantime, when he's productive, again, look what happened. They scored 25 runs. He was part of it. So those that were rooting against Javi this weekend are my chumps.
My chump is going to be Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker for his comments that he made at the college commencement speech where he was basically talking about where a woman's place is. Not good. Not a good speech. Maybe use your inside voice on this one, buddy, or maybe just wake the F up because it's a different day. I imagine the Swifties is going to be coming for him any second now. Let alone now he's put it on his teammates are going to have to comment on it. The Chiefs are going to have to release something, and now the NFL is probably going to have to say something about this, all because he's an idiot.
All right, get your Champ and Chump votes in, 248-539-9797. We will tally them up and post on our website on Tuesday who the people select as Champ and Chump on the weekend. All right, so here's what I'm sensing with the Tigers, Gator. There's a lot conspiring against them this summer. There's an old adage in baseball that chicks dig the long ball, and Americans love offense. We love high scoring. We love excitement, and the excitement is measured in baseball in large part by home runs and offense. And we love speed. We love guys that are fast. I think it's one of the reasons why I think a quarterback's running ability is overrated. It's more exciting to me than it is important as it pertains to being successful in football. With that said, the Tigers don't have much of any of that. They haven't hit a bunch of home runs, although they've started to show a little bit of a power surge, and they don't bring speed to the table. They don't bring a lot of offense to the table. They are not checking the boxes that make them seem like must-see TV. And then, again, these are weird times we're living in. You combine that with the fact that the team is blacked out to much of the Metro Detroit audience. And so they're playing a style of baseball that isn't compelling people to seek alternatives. And I just wonder what this summer is going to be like. The win percentage of the Tigers over the last 6 seasons has gone from 292 to 397 to 475, a step back to 407. New guy comes in, 481, 500. That's where they are right now, 500. Step by step, they have slowly gotten better, and they're getting younger. So there's a lot of evidence here, a lot of evidence that on the surface can say we are at the perhaps early stages of the next good Tiger team. There's some moves that have to be made. I think there's a lot here that really is worth watching. And yet, I don't know if we have anything more than lukewarm interest in this team. The Tigers are on FS1 tonight, right? So there's a chance to watch them play. And I don't know how we're going to do this all summer. And maybe we won't. Maybe we won't talk a lot of Tigers. But I understand why people's tank of given S is low, but it's going to be a weird summer if this team is playing better baseball than it has in 8 years, doing it with a young core, and people don't care. Now, some people interpreted this offseason as punting on the season, and I don't really necessarily blame you for that. I didn't see this as an offseason where they wouldn't do anything, but they didn't do much, even though many of those targets aren't doing much right now. The guys that people wanted aren't producing at a game-changing level. And so here we sit with Colt Keith, as you mentioned earlier in the show, getting opportunities he wouldn't on a team that was trying to compete. Is it exciting? I think it is. I don't think a lot of people do, though.
No, probably not. And I think you're right. If for someone like me who follows minor league baseball and will see a player kind of rise through the minor league system and say, oh, I like this guy, there's a payoff for me as a fan that pays attention to that stuff.
Yep.
Because when I saw him rising through the system last year at every level and he was just hitting at every level, I'm like, oh, I hope this guy's going to pan out. And then they basically reward him before he's taken an at-bat and said, we believe in you. You're making a team out of spring training and you're getting this contract. And on top of that, the manager comes out and says, I don't want him looking over his shoulder at all. He's playing. All right. Yep. Even if he's not hitting, we don't care. He's going to play. We're going to give him that opportunity. And I'm glad they did because, even though he wasn't hitting, there were things that you could like. He only strikes out 16% of the time. An age with baseball where I don't know what the average is, but I'm going to assume the average is well over 20% to strike out. That's not what he's doing. He doesn't look completely lost up there, I guess is the point. He's putting the ball in play. And over the weekend, he had 5 hits, 4 hits in the one game. He had the hit yesterday. So you're starting to see maybe it's coming around. And, okay, if he starts to catch fire like he did last year in the minors, this is going to be a big-time payoff for the team and for people like me that are invested in this. Now, the same token, I understand what you're saying and being patient and seeing the young guys play. But there's also a point where we're seeing older guys or veteran players on this team that are here that I think already have hit their ceiling, and they are what they are. And I mentioned Mark Canha and Matt Vierling. I think and McKinstry, I think they are what they are. Mm-hmm. Are they blocking the way for even more opportunities? And because there are players like Justin Henry Malloy, like Jace Young, even like Akil Baddoo, who's killing, or Parker Meadows. Since Parker Meadows got sent down, you see what he's done?
Yes.
He's killing the ball.
Yeah.
His OPS is well over 1,000. I did a couple home runs. He's stealing bases. He's doing everything. Now, I'm not saying he needs to be brought right back up.
I hear you.
But is this just a wake-up call for him? And he's like, oh, sorry, man, I got to get my head straight. Now I'm back, and we'll see what he can do at some point. He'll be back up at some point. But my question is, when will that point be where the team decides we've seen enough out of guys like Canha or maybe even Urshela for that matter, and Vierling, where they can go ahead and say, all right, Jace Young, you're coming up. And we know that Urshela and Vierling have played third base, but Jace Young's the future, and there's not much more he can prove at Toledo. Bring him up. Hey, we're looking over at Justin Henry Malloy. My God, this guy just keeps getting on base. He keeps hitting. He's hitting, I think, in the 270s, and his OPS is well over 800, approaching 900. Hey, man, let's see what you can do at the major league level. And that's where I'm kind of at right now. I want more out of the youth to see that, and yet I understand why they haven't, because they're still in this realm where maybe they can compete for a wild card spot.
They could, and the thing is, as we've talked about Jace Young, how he could get called up soon. The Tigers also have in the organization the top-ranked pitching prospect in minor league baseball. Yeah. When Paul Skeens got called up, Jackson Jobe became the top-ranked pitching prospect in minor league baseball. So I'm looking at a lot of variables here that have me encouraged. Now, I go back to something that we talk about all the time, and that is this radio station and our show is no different than a radio station that plays music. You play the hits. I don't know how much the Tigers are a hit this summer. I'm sitting here doing this overall inventory of where we stand with the Tigers organization. And I'm afraid where we stand might be there. Oh. And what we have is some reasons to be at least interested. I don't blame you if it's not. I mean, it's not as good as if they're 15 games over. But the blackout thing might be just killing them. It might just be killing the enthusiasm.
Well, it's certainly not helping. I know more and more people are going to be switching over to the app like I did.
And you're in now, right?
I'm in. And you know what?
You're moving off the 10-day trial.
And I'll be honest, I haven't had any problems with the app. Any problem that I would have had would have been with my own Wi-Fi in the house, not with the app. It hasn't forced me to relog in, or it's not spinning and stuff. I mean, it works, and I haven't had an issue with it yet. So I've been pleasantly surprised with it to this point. But of course, I want it back where it was, which was on Xfinity, because I don't like watching the games on my laptop while I've got I need to find the cord and plug it into the TV so I can do it that way. But I want it back on the TV so I can just switch between channels and stuff like that. But it is what it is. I think you're right. I think without being able to see it, there's a little bit of maybe apathy is setting in. And yet the reality of the situation is, here we are on May 20th, and the Tigers are a game out of the wild card spot.
Is that what it is? And this is coming from a guy who feels like he's given up. That just made that observation. I guess anybody could have looked at the standings. Funny, I'm just looking at it's too early for me to look at the wild card. I haven't even looked. It's a game.
Yeah, well, it's weird how this shows. When I did the ESPN looking at there, because the top two, I think,
the top two are in.
Yeah,
right.
And there's a third wild card, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so they're a game out of that. Minnesota right now, Minnesota and Tampa are tied for that spot. The Tigers and Rangers are a game behind that.
Weird.
We're 4 games behind Kansas City, who's already in the wild card.
All right.
3 games behind Kansas.
248-539-9797. We'll get to some of your phone calls and feedback. Plus, Champ and Chump votes. Get them in. It's Carson Anderson here on 97.1. Hey, it's Sarah Chevrolet in Sterling Heights. They're getting psyched up for the summer with mega deals all month long. Right now, you can lease a new Chevy Silverado for just $379 a month with no money down. You heard that right. $379 a month for 24 months on a 1500 4x4 crew cab LT. Unlock the savings with a GM employee discount. Sarah Chevrolet Sterling Heights, where they guarantee the lowest price or it's free. It's free. 17.5 in Van Dyke and Sterling Heights. Do what I did. Call 87-SAY-SARAH or go to saysarah.com. Together, let's drive.
I pulled up Toledo's stats because I wanted to see what the Mud Hens, take a closer look. And I can't help but think there's a log jam of players that probably are just dying to get their shot. I'm sure they're dying to get their shot and get their shot again in some respects, like a Parker Meadows or a Akil Baddoo. And is there a move out there that the Tigers can make where it serves two purposes? You've seen enough with whatever player you've seen enough with at the major league level. And can you pair that up with someone at the minor league level who's also doing well, but isn't going to be part of your future?
Yep. Someone
like perhaps a Ryan Valade, right? Who's got his little cup of coffee with the Tigers, did okay, but he's hitting 326 at Toledo. He's got a 939 on OPS. He's done very well there. Can you pair him up with, I'm just throwing names out there, with Matt Vierling and get some kind of either middle prospect or bullpen arm or whatever it is? You're not expecting much, but what you're doing is clearing space to give someone else their opportunity. I can't wait to see Parker Meadows again, because in the 10 games he's been at Toledo, this is only 10 games. He has 3 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, 7 walks, and 4 stolen bases. Hasn't been caught stealing. He's hitting .324, the .447 on base percentage, a .622 slugging percentage. His OPS is .1069. Now, clearly he wasn't getting it done at Detroit. He hit less than 100 at Detroit before he was sent down. They sent him down because he needed to learn how to hit again. He might be the best center fielder in baseball. He's in the discussion for sure because of his defensive abilities. But he couldn't hit while he was here this year. All he's done is hit since he's been at Toledo. Does he deserve to get his chance again? You look at Akil Baddoo, and here's a guy whose OPS is .819. He's got 5 homers and 4 triples on the season. I mean, there are guys that need to get that opportunity again. And if it's not with Detroit, then Akil Baddoo deserves an opportunity somewhere else.
Well, and you're not going to get much for any of these guys.
No, and I'm not expecting.
But you know what? You know what wasn't considered much? Reese Olson wasn't considered much.
Well, sure.
You get somebody's middling prospect that you hope that maybe you can find the diamond in the rough that way.
But what I'm hoping is that if they clear a space, then it allows somebody else to come forward, right? I mean, Gio Urshela is a nice stopgap at third base, but he's not the future for the Tigers, is he?
No.
And Jace Young is. And Jace Young has a .907 OPS. He's hitting .277 with a .387 on base percentage. And oh, by the way, has 8 home runs and 31 RBIs in 41 games. And he's hitting. He's mashing. Now he needs to get better in the field, and maybe that's why they haven't brought him up yet, because they want to make sure that he is major league ready or passable at third base before he gets that chance.
There's some stuff.
There's some stuff. They've got stuff down at Toledo.
But Detroit is, I think the city collectively is kind of yawning at the Tigers at this point. We get this from Eric. I went to the Tigers game Saturday in Arizona, sitting lower level behind the dugout. When we broke out for 6 runs on the top of the 7th, a Jared Goff chant busted out during a pitching change. We are everywhere.
This is in the minors. He did all he was going to. He hit 300 in 3 years in the minors.
Eli writes in, you're forgetting about Max Clark. Less than 2 years, the entire infield will be under 27. They will be in a good spot. They just aren't yet.
Well, Max Clark is an outfielder, but McGonigal is the one who's really off to a good start, who's from that same draft class, also a high schooler at the time. So McGonigal and Clark are at Florida right now playing for the Flying Tigers in low A ball. McGonigal's hitting 300. Max Clark's hitting 250. But McGonigal is the one who's off to a better start. Yeah, and Clark got off to a horrible start. Now he's starting to hit a little bit. So both of those guys, watching them rise up, they're going to take their time with them because they're high school guys.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to see that. And then there's Max Anderson, I believe, who's at High A West Michigan, who's probably poised to move up quickly.
Unnamed texter says, I do struggle with the Tigers. They're 6.5 games back in the division. It feels like it's getting away from them a bit. 1 game back in the wild card, but there's a lot of teams in the mix that I think are better. I'm losing steam on them. That's fair. I mean, look, this is a futures play as much as it is a now play. Alan McComb says, guys, could you imagine how fun it would be if Torque would catch fire again? But then again, we wouldn't be able to watch it.